Welcome to Executive Insights. My guest today is John Comacchio, Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer with Teknion. In this episode, we discuss the topic of the future of work and how we can best prepare ourselves as a leader and as an employee in this ever evolving new state of work. As a senior technology leader and a C suite executive, John shares practical tips about how to create a culture of collaboration and inclusivity in a hybrid work environment. We also explore the role of CIO in helping to transform customer experience. Hi, John. Great to see you today and welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you, Nasheen. Great to be here.
Well, we have a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. At a recent CIO roundtable discussion, we talked about the imperatives for the new work model. I think it's fair to say that the future of work has already arrived and it's ever evolving. As many organizations plan and execute their future work strategies, you noted that there are physical, digital, and anthropological aspects that should be taken into consideration. Can you elaborate?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So as we know, like employees will come back to an office that's more spread out. It'll be open and collaborative to allow for those collisions, but it will also have some privacy on demand areas, so pods, as we call them, where you can go within an open collaborative space, have some privacy, feel safe, get some work done, and then re-enter the open collaborative space. And I think the idea here is that it will be spread out, and it will be allowing those collisions to occur, but those privacy spots will be there because I think they're going to be even more important as we re-enter the workforce and re-enter our buildings and get to understand how they're supposed to work under this new regime post-pandemic. On the digital side, during the past 16 months, we relied on digital communications and platforms to do our job. And those will continue in-house, absolutely. And they're very, very important. For us to service all business applications and accessibility in a digital way is key. And it also allows us to bring in people who are working from away, working from home. So that part will really require a big change around how we outfit some of the rooms and how we will be able to communicate no matter where we are digitally with people who are working from away while we are physically present, which I think is very key. On the anthropological side, I mean, this is an interesting piece that we've been thinking about for quite a while. And I think we all have this understanding of what the office is, right? The office is where we go do our work, right? And the office is these unplanned, uninterrupted rituals that just sort of occur. And they're symbolic of an office. So now we sit back and go, the way we get work done is to pull information together, pull people together, and pull groups together and start collaborating and innovating, try to problem solve. Well, on the anthropological side, that is around a physical presence. We now have to make sure that we include the digitally separated, and we don't want to create a second-class citizen, and we also want their inclusion into all this. So anthropologically, we have to think now, who is in front of me and with me at this table, and who can I bring in digitally to have this discussion? And it can't be an afterthought. It can't be, oh, we should have had John on the call. It has to be, well, let's get everyone together no matter where everyone is. I think that's going to be a bit of a change of mindset. And I think that's where the anthropological piece will happen. And that's how we still have to get work done.
Yeah, very well said. And I'm so glad we're going to further explore all of those aspects today. But first of all, when we think about the way we work, oftentimes we associate ourselves with a workplace. And for many of us, the concept of a workspace and how that can be fluid and impactful is not immediately realized. I'm so glad you brought it up. So, how is technology enabling the workspace at Teknion?
Absolutely. So a workplace, as you mentioned, is a place where we go to work, and a workspace is where we actually do our work. And typically that's been, I go to my office building, my workplace, and then I go to my office desk, which is my workspace. And that's typically what we did pre-pandemic. But with the pandemic, we quickly discovered that our workplace is our home, and our workspace is a corner of our home. Then we quickly realized that that my digital workplace is the platform that we have, that I go and all of our employees go to access all their applications, their data, their documents, and also their collaboration tools. And then our digital workspace would be my laptop, my mobile phone, which then I connect to the digital workplace. And all of a sudden now we have this separation between a physical workplace and a digital workplace, and a physical workspace and a digital workspace. So then when you start thinking about, as we move back into the hybrid world, we're actually going to be leveraging, and we always have leveraged without realizing, our digital platforms, our digital workplace in the office to collaborate and work and communicate with our folks who are working from home and working from away on their digital workplace. And then of course, we all have our digital workspace. So it's kind of, we're crossing these mediums, realizing that my workplace is really in the cloud with all my applications and how I access it and how I am authenticated into that. And my workspace are my immediate tools. And I can carry them no matter what physical building I'm in, be it my office, my home, a remote office, or a core working space. So I think having the tools to make that work is something that a lot of companies, possibly did not have pre-COVID and rapidly worked on. And now I think we can all leverage that, irrespective of who's in the physical office and who is at home. And everyone is working in the exact same way. So there's no change how you work, no matter where you are. I think that's really the key to a workplace and a workspace, and how it has evolved to a digital workplace and a digital workspace.
Yeah, very well explained. I'm so glad that you take that concept and kind of walk us through what that means in the digital world. And much like the post-pandemic workplaces that will need reimagining, so too will the skill sets and capability of our workforce for both the leaders and employees. I'm really interested in getting your perspective on this topic. What are some of the areas that we should be paying closer attention to when it comes to pivoting our mindset and skills in the new state of work?
Well, it's a great question, because organizations right now, and we read about it every day, are readjusting their workforce to drive productivity, innovation, and growth. So as a leader, you have to sit back and say, the team I have today, can it do that? And how do I have to adjust that team? And how do I have to adjust their thinking to achieve the overall outcome as we start to pivoting post-pandemic? So I think about leadership styles, and I think about the ability to inspire, I think is very, very key right now. Because as we look at new ways, and as we learn new ways to do work, and as we pivoted our applications, and even how our selling channels and how we acquire talent, right? You have to be able to inspire. And I think leaders have to really focus on how they can inspire their workforce, because it might not be right in front of them every day. They'll be scattered, and they'll be very diverse as well. So I think that inspiration part is very key from a leader perspective. Building a culture that supports this hybrid work model. Again, back to inclusiveness. Those who are physically present and those who are digitally present have to be treated equally. The promotability of someone who's been working from away for the entire time. It's okay if they become the boss. Right. So I think promoting that digital and hybrid culture, I think, is very key, and it has to be top of mind of every leader and every manager in the business, right? And of course, something dear to my heart, and I've talked about this, the ability to learn and to teach learning to learn and keep learning to learn. I think that's very important. I think that we have to promote that learning culture as leaders. And that became very important during the pandemic. And I think that's also going to continue. And as things change and rapidly evolve, the ability to learn and change how you think and adapt to what's coming ahead of you is going to be very, very important. And I'll end on empathy for a leader. I mean, leaders, they had to show a lot of empathy over the past 16 months. And I think they're going to have to continue to be empathetic to as people adjust and come back and try to understand what the workforce is going to look like post-COVID, what their personal lives are going to look like post-COVID. So the empathetic nature of a leader has never been more important than today. So I think that's really key. And I think, for the employees, I mean, the employees have to continue to develop a mind for problem solving. I mean, problem solving has always been a key issue for employee growth, but you think of how employees solve problems when they were working remotely. They found a way to communicate, collaborate if they did not have the tools. If they had the tools, they leveraged them differently. And I think that's really key, right? And part of that problem solving is, as you know, that Nasheen, ask good questions. You know, the employees have to ask good questions, especially when they won't have as much face time if they're digitally present versus physically present. So I think that's a very important aspect for them. I think you have to build an affinity for building relationships, which is really key. Especially if you're remote, you have to find a way to communicate, touch base with someone, build a relationship with them, ask them, you know, how things are, about their dog, about their home, what's the weather like, all those things. And because I think that affinity for building relationships, it kind of defaulted to the collisions physically in the office. Well, now you've got to become better at that. Some people are better at that than others, but I think that's a very key skill that employees have to really build out. The other one I think is self-direction. It's really important as an employee and for your career to always have self-direction. But today you have to be more aware of what is going on and what do I have to do to learn more, to be better, to understand that better. So that self-direction has to be top of mind for every employee as we move into the future. And of course, the digital capabilities, they're a must. You have to learn those. And of course, adaptability. We've learned to be adaptable over the past 16 months. We've always been adaptable. But I think we have to continue to be more adaptable, and we have to be more adaptable to technologies and the new way of working as it comes forward as an employee.
Very sound advice. And now that we've explored what we need to do, and I like to further explore the how piece a little bit. So as we all have been experiencing, one of the biggest challenges with remote working is really we're deprived of the opportunity to spur organic and spontaneous interactions and collaboration, which is so fundamental for relationship building, for productivity, and for many of the points that you just mentioned. And from a go forward perspective, especially for leaders, one of the biggest challenges is how to motivate a multi-generational workforce and fostering that inclusive culture in a hybrid environment. And as a senior technology leader and a C-suite executive, what would you consider as best practices for optimizing the workforce experience and creating a culture of collaboration and inclusivity?
Sure, thank you. I think for starters, you know, objectives, goals, and outcomes are key. We've always had them, but I think they have to be amplified now, and they have to be broken down to every level in a more detailed way than before. Because if everyone understands the objectives, the goals, and the outcomes, that's the rally point. Right? So irrespective of what generation you're from and what level you are in the organization, you can rally around that. And then the communication around that and the monitoring management around that is very key. And the open reporting around the objectives, the goals, and the outcomes that we're working on and that we've achieved. And I think the achievement part is the rally point as well, right? Especially when people are fragmented in a hybrid model. We got this done, right? And we need my co-sponsor, another executive peer, to acknowledge everyone. You know, be it a video call or be it a quick chat message. You know, great job, guys. I think that whole idea of upping the communication in a very Gen Z way, though, right? Very short and sharp, right? You don't have to have big meetings about that. And I think, you know, the more feedback we can give, the better. I think the other thing that we've seen a lot of people through the pandemic, how they've reacted and how they've really stepped forward. So we have to stop giving the usual suspects all the work. And that's a bad habit that a lot of leaders have, right? I can rely on these three people. Let's go, right? You have to reach into the organization and give that open opportunity, and then assign someone of the usual suspects to be their mentor and to help them get through that and foster that mentoring, which then gets back to that multi-generation. The mentoring goes up and down generations, right? So the digital capabilities we talked about as a skill set, that's a must requirement. You know, the older generations might not have as much comfort with that, and the younger generations can help that mentoring with the digital capabilities. Yet the whole idea around some of the leadership and the affinity to build relationships, you know, the older generation might have that better because they attended all kinds of events physically in the office over their career. and they can do some introductions to people. You really should meet so-and-so in this department, right? And create and foster those introductions, right? To really build out that team camaraderie and have everyone working together and everyone working with each other and making sure that everyone is focused on the outcomes based on the goals and objectives that we set.
Very practical and useful tips. I'm so glad this is recorded so I can rewatch it and take notes later. So the future of work ultimately is about, creating the best workforce and customer experience. And CIOs have an important role to play. How is technology helping to transform that customer experience at Teknion?
Absolutely. I think, CX is a very, very important topic here because our customers are large Global 2000 customers that have also had, pandemic related pivots. So that means everything they've changed and or adapted to is going to come back to their supply base, right? So we have to be able to have a very, very nimble customer experience, be able to change that. And as we know, data drives every decision we make. In all business. And if we can have that data available as information and available in a self-serve way through a single pane of glass to a customer based on who they are and the order that they submitted to us, then all of a sudden we've helped them attain some commonality between us and them. And I think technology, and especially the CIO role, we're the aggregator. We bring everyone together. We horizontally look through the organization and sort of connect the dots with everything that's required. So the other part that we have to do is we have to bring in those departments that might seem like they're covert. Say, well, we don't share that information, but why not, right? We are in a self-serve, find it right now society. And the pandemic proved everyone's adaptability to online shop, to online purchase, to get things delivered, and to use services they never used before, and they figured out quickly how to use them because of necessity. So we have to take that rush and think everything now is a necessity. Why is the customer calling us? Why can't they get that online? Why are we sending stuff? Why can't we connect to their internal marketplaces with our external marketplaces and internal services and just exchange data for the obvious questions? So I think that's the focus that we're doing right now, and really trying to work with our customer base to see what they need and look at how we can provide that and become better internal and actually create better processes internal to present that information and that technology. And I think the digital platforms of today, combined with data, information, presentation, and collaborative chat and communication, all are now tied into one application. It's not, you don't have to phone me now. You can just chat what you need and I'll get back to you. I think that's another key, how to bring the office administration workspace into the application workspace and service the customer with what they need.
Excellent. Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate this conversation. And as I always said, time spent with you is time well spent. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Great questions. I really appreciate it. And great to be able to have this discussion and to share as well, right?
Yes, for sure. You've been watching another episode of Executive Insights by the IT Media Group. Thank you for tuning in. If you like this video, please check out other content on our YouTube channel, including executive interviews and CIO roundtable conversations. And don't forget to subscribe.